Well, hello everybody. As most of you probably know, today is November 5th, 2024, the day of the elections. The general elections that will decide governor, senate, house, and most importantly, the presidency. So, so I believe that it's going to be a very important one, probably the most important of a lot of our lifetimes. And a lot of people, myself included, are excited but also very nervous for the outcome because it could be very detrimental to a lot of our futures. And that's, however, whoever you support, whatever you feel about the selection, there's little denying that it is going to be a very influential one. So I'm going to be giving my final predictions for all the elections except the House. I refuse to do a House prediction because I have no clue what's going on in the House at all. So yeah, we're just going to do the gubernatorial, Senate, and presidency. Yeah. So let's start off with the gubernatorial predictions. These are probably the easiest, most, plain out, just easiest elections to predict because they're all pretty self-explanatory. I've actually, as you can see, my the Democrat and Republican tiers, they look a little bit different. That's because I've developed my own system. Dark blue or red is still safe. Anything above 15%. Then I have anything between 15 and 10% as the tier 2 color. And then for the tier 3 color, that is anything between 10 and 5%. No, 10 and 3%. Yeah, sounds about right. And then tier 4 color, anything between 3 and 1%. And then the last tier is obviously anything lower than 1%. So let's start off in North Dakota. That is going to be safe Republican. Same with Utah, Missouri, Indiana, West Virginia, and surprisingly Vermont. Now, Vermont is one of those weird states where it's you would expect it to be solid blue, but because Phil Scott is such a liberal Republican, he's going to easily win in Vermont. I expect him to win by 30+% in a best case scenario for him. Well, in a best case scenario is winning by 40 something percent. But yeah, he's going to easily win Vermont. He has little competition. Now for the safe Democrat states, surprisingly, I actually don't have any above 15%. I have some very close, I have Washington at 14%, Delaware also at 14%, and I have North Carolina at 13% for the Democrat candidate because, again, Mark Robinson just completely sabotaged his own campaign with all the freaking scandals that came out against him. So there's that. Now for the, I guess I'll call it likely Republican states. Montana, that'll be between 10 and 5. And now we get to as what I consider the only swing state, I guess, of the gubernatorial races, and that is New Hampshire. And New Hampshire, the polling from this state in the gubernatorial race has been kind of on and off. Sometimes it leans Democrat, sometimes it leans Republican. I've seen it lean Republican a lot more. But I'm actually going to put it in the tier 4 column for the Republican Party. That is between 3 and 1%. Because I don't think it'll quite be under 1%. I think it'll be Republican plus a little over 1%, maybe even 2%, in the New Hampshire gubernatorial race. So this is my governor's prediction. Democrats will pick up 3 governor's seats, and the Republicans will pick up 8 governor's states or whatever. And now, let's go on to the Senate. Alright, so here is the Senate map. Senate is also pretty easy to predict. Not that hard at all. Utah, Wyoming, North Dakota. Nebraska's special. We will come back to Nebraska later. Missouri, Tennessee, Mississippi, Indiana, West Virginia. And I think that is it for the Republican safe states. Now, for the Democrat safe states, we have California, Hawaii, Maryland. I used to have Maryland at likely. I think I may even had it at lean at one point. But, yeah, I have Maryland going safe blue this time around. Delaware, New Jersey, Connecticut, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, Vermont, Maine, and New York. All safe Democrat states. So now let's get into the Tier 2 color, which is, again, between 15 and 10. This is going to have quite a few more states. We got Florida, between 15 and 10. And actually, oh no, yeah, I think that's actually it. Yeah, that's it. Alright, 10 and 15 for the Democrats. I have Virginia. Some people could argue that Virginia is safe, well above 15%. I think it'll be slightly below. I think Hung Cow is at least decently popular. So I think he'll be able to crack it under 15%. Same with Washington. I think it'll be barely below 15%. And also the same with Minnesota and New Mexico. Alright, so we've got those states done. Now let's look at the states that'll be between 10 and 3%. These states will include Nebraska, Texas, and Montana on the Republican side. And on the Democrat side, this will include states like Nevada, Arizona, Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania. Wait, there we go, Pennsylvania. So that is, and now we just have one more state, which is Ohio. This will definitely be the closest state in this race, in the Senate race. So I think it goes blue. It'll go blue by between 3 and 1%, I think, but I think it will go blue. So I have the Republicans winning the Senate 51 to 49. All right, so that is my final Senate prediction. Let's now go on to what most of you probably came here for, the presidential prediction. And here we are, the presidential prediction between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump, the election that will be decided today depending on when you're seeing this video, you may be seeing this video while the election's ongoing or even after the election, but it should go up like a few hours before the first poll closings. So, yeah, this is just so excited. I can't wait for these results. I can't wait to see who was wrong, who was right. Now, I want to say something for a second. If I'm wrong, I will fully own it. If I'm wrong, which, I mean, I'm wrong a lot of the times. I was wrong about Tim Walz. I was wrong about Kennedy. I was wrong about a lot of things. So I would not be surprised if I'm absolutely incorrect about my prediction here. But yeah. So if I am wrong, I will fully own it, and I will, acknowledge the people who are right and give them bragging rights. But without further ado, let's get into the prediction that you've all been waiting for, the presidential prediction. So I'm going to start with, obviously, the safe Trump states, and I think this is pretty self-explanatory. I'm just going to skip over this. Okay, so this is probably a lot less safe states than you would have probably expected for each candidate. I've only got 131 safe electoral votes for Harris, 121 safe for Trump. That's because there's a lot of states that I think, there's no debate on which way they're going to go, but I do think they'll be slightly below 15%, so I'm just going to go ahead and also color those in. Okay, that actually was not nearly as many states as I thought I was going to color in for the Tier 2 coloration. Yeah, because I still have a lot of states classified as lower than 10 as well. Like Colorado. At first, I thought this was going to be in the tier 2 column, but seeing some of the early voting results, I really don't know. Because at least from the site that I saw of the early voting results, Harris was only leading Colorado by 2% in the early vote. Now, of course, I think she's still going to handily win the state, but I think that alone is enough to put it down in that tier 3 column. So that's where I'm going to put it. That's also where I'm going to put Virginia, New Hampshire. Actually, no. There was a poll from New Hampshire that had Harris up by like 28%. So I will put it in that tier 2 column because I think it's way too out of reach now for the Trump campaign. Clinton only won it by 0.4% in 2016, and then Biden won it by 7%, I believe, in 2020. So yeah, it is far trending to the left, and I don't think it has a chance of going for Trump. I'm not saying it'll go to Harris by 28%. I'm just saying it'll go to her by above 10, because I believe that is definitely happening. Nebraska's 2nd district, I think, will be that tier 3 column, just under 10%. Same with Minnesota and New Mexico. So, yeah, these are all those states for Kamala Harris. Now let's color in those states for Donald Trump between 10 and 3%. States like Texas, Florida, and, of course, Maine's 2nd district. Ohio, definitely. And I want to say Iowa as well. Now, there was that poll that came out like a couple days ago that had Harris up by 3%. That is probably one of the most ridiculous things I've ever seen. I don't think it's going to Kamala Harris at all, let alone by 3%. I still think it'll definitely go for Trump by over 3%. All right, now, yeah, I'm pretty sure. Well, wait, no, color. Gotta color that in. So now we only have the major swing states left: Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Georgia, Arizona, and Nevada. The states that will ultimately decide this election, and all of these states are going to be within the last 2 columns. I believe all of these states are going to be less than 3% win for either or candidate. So let's start with Nevada and Arizona over here. Now, Nevada, early voting results from Nevada is not a good sign for the Trump campaign. Harris has been leading exponentially in the Nevada early voting. It looked really good for Donald Trump for a second. He was leading by like 8% in the early voting in Nevada. His lead has now shrunk to 4%. And I think that this alone will probably be enough for... I don't know if it'll be enough for it to swing to Harris. I don't know. Yeah, Nevada is going to be one of those really unexpected states. You know what? I'm going to classify it for Trump. Why not? We're going to classify it for him by like 2%. Arizona, I think, is also going to go in that same column. I think it'll go for Trump by like a little over 1%, maybe 2%. Even though abortion is directly on the ballot in Arizona and people are saying that's going to hurt Republicans, I just don't think it's going to hurt Republicans by as much as people think it will. So now let's go over to North Carolina and Georgia, another 2 states which I think are going to go for Trump fairly easily. Georgia and North Carolina, I think will go for Trump by like lower than 2%, but higher than 1%, I believe, is where these states will go. You may even be able to classify North Carolina as a tilt state, because, you know, it could fall below that 1% column, because Donald Trump has not won this state by much in recent elections. All right, now we go to the Rust Belt states, the 3 states that will ultimately decide the President of the United States. We're going to start off with Wisconsin. Early voting, I'm pretty sure Kamala Harris has a lead by 9% in Wisconsin in the early voting. So that's pretty good for her. But it could be narrowed up. Trump could get it a lot closer, but I still think it will go to Kamala Harris. So I think it'll go to her by like 2-ish, maybe lower percent. It'll be pretty close. It might even be tilt. I don't know. Yeah. I'll classify it as tilt. I think it'll be really close. Michigan, early voting has actually been a disaster for Harris in this state. She was only leading last time I checked by 3% in the early voting, which for a state like Michigan, you don't want to be leading by 3%. You want to be leading by way, way more. But also, Michigan is probably the most liberal of the 3 Sunbelt states. They have a very popular liberal governor, Gretchen Whitmer. So turnout in Michigan is probably going to be very good for Democrats, but also there's a lot of groups in Michigan that strongly despise Kamala Harris. So I don't know. Michigan could be one of those states where it's like you don't expect it to be red, but it could go red. Yeah, Michigan's going to be tough. We'll come back to Michigan. I want to talk about Pennsylvania real quick. Now, Pennsylvania, I also had as one of those in the air states. I actually had it going for Trump in my last prediction. But I actually think that, especially after seeing the early voting results, Harris is leading by like 24% right now in early voting. I think Harris will be able to win it, honestly. I think it'll definitely be tilt, but I think Kamala Harris will actually be able to pull off a victory in Pennsylvania. And now we go up to Michigan, where this is going to be tough. But I think I have it narrowly going to Harris. So this is the prediction. We have Kamala Harris 270, Donald Trump 268. This is definitely my closest prediction yet. And I do think it will be this close. Maybe not this exact prediction, but it'll definitely be like this close. I don't expect a landslide for either candidate. I don't think that's possible. So yeah, this is my prediction. Kamala Harris narrowly wins with the bare minimum 270 electoral votes to become president. Donald Trump, 268 electoral votes. And again, a lot of these states are well within the margin of error. So I still think this is a toss-up election. This is 100% a toss-up election. Who knows? Donald Trump could surprise us like he did in 2016 and win all 3 of the Rust Belt states. I would not be surprised if he did that. I mean, I'd be a little surprised for states like Pennsylvania. I'd be a little surprised if he won Pennsylvania. But I would not be surprised if he won Michigan or Wisconsin at all. And on the contrary, I would not be surprised if Harris won states like Arizona, Georgia, or North Carolina. Or even Nevada. I don't even think I'd be surprised if she won Nevada. So, this is my prediction. I have Harris at 270, Donald Trump at 268. So my official prediction, I have Kamala Harris winning the presidency. Well, we'll see if I'm right in like a few hours here. So that's going to be it for my final election prediction. See you guys. I might post I don't know if I'm going to do a live stream, honestly, of the election. I might. If I decide to, I'll let y'all know, before I start going live. It may be later. I may start going live later in the election. I won't go live immediately as soon as it starts, because I'm going to watch at least the first few hours of it with my family. But they're probably going to go to sleep. I don't expect them to stay up to midnight. They'll probably go to sleep by midnight, and I'll be streaming the rest of that time before school on Wednesday. So that's going to be it. See you guys in a few hours when the actual live results start coming in.